We are rolling. We are back. Welcome to the MarkZDrumcast. I am your host, Mark Zapata. It is Friday. It is a wonderful, rainy, gross Friday here in New York. But hey, we need the rain, don't we? Right? So, oh my God. Wow. That is crazy. Okay, I don't know if, anyway, it's a rainy, terrible day here in New York, and I am coming to you from my nice, cozy, warm studio after having taught in-person lessons and virtual lessons today up until just now. And a subject that has come up in recent lessons, a subject that has come up with myself as well as my students. The importance of practice. And I know it's easy to say as a drum teacher, you have to practice, you have to practice, you have to practice. And I used to say that, certainly. And I used to say that to myself. Until I realized that you have to practice is not enough information for my students to actually motivate them to practice. You need to practice as a directive, but it really is not enough. So by the end of this live, by the end of this Drumcast, I will hopefully have given everybody watching some sort of direction when it comes to practice. What is practice? How do we practice? What is efficient practice? What is productive practice? And what different types of practices are there, right? There is different types of practice. There are many things as drummers that we can benefit from practicing. So the first thing is listening. Okay? Not only listening to music, listening to instruction, listening to what is going on in our everyday lives. What I mean by that is that there is rhythm everywhere. There is inspiration and ideas everywhere in our everyday lives. And I'm not just talking about the fact that these days, anywhere you go, there is music playing. The supermarket, the auto parts store, the bank, your car, an elevator. Anywhere you go, a doctor's waiting room, there's music playing. Every commercial has music, every movie has music, every TV show has music, every video game has music. There's music everywhere. We have music at the touch of a button, at a voice command. I can have music playing in my kitchen in the morning as I'm making coffee. We have unprecedented access to music these days. So when I say listening, not only listening to the music all around us, but the sounds all around us. Birds chirping, animals, crickets making rhythmic sounds. All kinds of stuff, we're surrounded by it. That's why I always felt like music, especially rhythm, drumming, is very, very primal. It goes back to the beginnings of who we are, and it is very connected to nature and the earth. Nature has its own rhythm that if we sit outside on a quiet night, we can listen to in the morning when the birds wake up. And it's nice, and it's springtime out, and I have all my windows open, and I'm awakened to the sound of the birds chirping. On a hot day, the crickets, the tree frogs, whatever it is, okay? Why am I talking all of this crazy mess? I don't know, but it got me thinking about rhythm. It got me thinking about rhythm in our everyday lives. But one very important type of practice is listening. We need to practice our listening skills, especially if we are trying to increase or improve our skills at learning songs. Listening to music, selective listening, is very important when we're trying to figure out exactly what's going on with the drums and what we need to do as drummers if we're going to cover that song in a band, or if we're going to do drum covers, or if we're going to just play for fun. We want to have an idea of what's going on. And when we're learning songs, when we're learning songs that are already existing, we're also taking in information, we're taking in ideas, we're adding to our toolbox of tools, we're adding to our building blocks of things that we can draw from in our own experience, in our own minds. We can draw from the music that we're listening to inform our own creativity. So when we're listening to learn cover songs, we are also, like I said, increasing our musical vocabulary based on the stuff we're listening. Oh, wow, what is that? Oh, wow, what is that? Oh, I've never heard that fill before. That's really cool. Let me figure out what that is. So selective listening is a very important skill to develop, and it can be worked on. It can be developed. It can be developed like any other skill that we would develop on the drums. All right, but it is a lot of drumming is mental, and it is about coordination. It is about getting our brain to tell our limbs to do certain things. So when we are intaking music and different ideas and stuff, it is informing us, and like I said, building up that musical vocabulary. So listening is a very, very important skill. We can practice listening, and we can practice active listening. Headphones are a very good tool because we can hear better the details in the music. And if we're trying to listen to a drum part in a song, it may be difficult at times. It all depends on the way the song was recorded, the way the drums were recorded, the way they were mixed, the way they were played, all of that stuff. Whether they're computer generated or they're actual acoustic drums or electronic drums, whatever. All of these things make it more difficult or easier to hear what the drums are doing. Sometimes I talked about this in an earlier Drumcast. We listen to songs and there are layered percussion parts. There may be somebody playing a drum set, but then there may be a shaker going on in the back. There may be a tambourine going on. There may be other percussion instruments being overlaid on top of the actual drum set track. So we need to be able to figure that out too, whether or not this is all something that we can play. So for me, listening to a song with headphones over and over again is how I begin to learn music, to learn songs. And so I will listen over and over again, and I will sometimes make notes, or I will count along with the song. Counting along with the song will help us to place the notes that we're looking to place. Bass drum notes, snare drum notes. What is the hi-hat doing? Where are the accents? Where are the crash cymbals happening? When is the fill starting? When does the fill end? All kinds of things. Time signature. What is the time signature of the song? So active listening is something that we can develop by listening and listening and listening and trying to sort of tune out the other instruments and just concentrate on the drums, or concentrate on the snare drum specifically, the bass drum specifically, the hi-hat, what's going on, the toms. I'll often, is one of my favorite things to do in a lesson with a student who's trying to learn a song, whether for themselves or with a band. I'll put the track on, we'll listen. We'll listen to the first section, the intro. Okay, pause. What's happening here? What are you hearing? I hear a hi-hat. I hear a bass drum. I hear a snare drum. Okay, anything else? Yeah, there's some kind of shaky thing going on, right? Or a tambourine or whatever. Okay, very good. Now, what's the bass drum doing? And then we key in on the bass drum. We focus in. Okay, the bass drum is 4 on the floor. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, great. Let's count the snare drums, because the snare drum is coming in on the 2 and 4, but there's also an extra snare drum, right? And it sounds like it may be a 16th note snare drum coming in on maybe early, maybe the of 3. Maybe that snare drum is coming in on the of 3 instead of on the 4. So let's count the snare drum, but let's count it in 16th notes. So when we get to the of 3, let's see if that's where the snare drum hits. Okay, boom, that's where it is. So active listening, very, very important. And learning to count quarter notes, the pulse, the beat in 4/4 time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And depending on the song, it may be 4/4 time, it may be something else. But learning to count, it's become such a big tool for me, counting along when I'm listening to a song and I'm trying to figure something out, to where the process now for me is automatic. It's just, okay, 1 E and a 2 E and a, okay, there, and there. That's where the bass drum pattern is. Okay, let me listen again. Blah, blah, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4 E and a, okay, boom, boom, boom. The snare drum's on the 2 and the of 3. Whatever it is, it's a great, great tool, because then we could start to write things out if we want to, that this is this part. Then we move on to the next part, what's happening there. So counting, active listening. 2 things that we can practice during our practice time. And really, active listening we can practice anytime. In the car, waiting for a bus with our headphones on, wherever you are that you can listen to music with your headphones, there's your active listening practice. So that's an easy one, right? Let's make sure we get our active listening practice in. Let's make sure we're listening to songs. Pick a variety of songs. Counting out loud. Very, very important to learning songs. Very, very important to figuring things out on the drums. And having a really good idea of where we are in the song, where we are in the bar, where we are in the beat, and where we are in our fills. So practicing counting out loud. Quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4. Eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 16th notes, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and so on and so forth. Get a basic knowledge of notes, note relationships, get a basic knowledge of how to count different notes, and get a basic knowledge of some common time signatures. 4/4 is the most common time signature, which is why it's also known as common time. And if you do not see a 4/4 or a number in the beginning of your bar, you may see a big C, the letter C. That's going to tell you that it's common time. That's going to tell you that it's 4/4, the most common time signature. Other than that, you may see different numbers on the top and on the bottom. Top number will tell you how many beats per measure. Bottom number will tell you what kind of note gets 1 beat. So a lot of good information there to tell you how to count. If you stay tuned, you check back soon. I'm putting together a drumming course, which will include counting, reading music. We really need to know a little bit about note relationships and how to read music in order to really count effectively. But if you're somebody that does not want to get totally into reading music, complex sheets of music, that's okay. At least get a working knowledge and an understanding of the basics of reading music and the basics of counting music. And it's going to really, really help when it comes to learning songs. Okay, so we've covered active listening, which you can do anywhere, anytime, and you can consider that some practicing. You could say, oh, I practiced for an hour today. I was listening to music. Okay, I was actively listening to music. I was trying to pick out what's going on with the drums. All right, great. That's a great use of your time for practicing something that's very important to drumming. Also, yes, I was counting along as I was listening to music. As I was actively listening to music, I was counting along. Great, okay? A really good use of your time, and definitely consider practice time. But now, besides that, what to practice, how to practice. What I realized early on in my teaching career was that practice habits need to be taught just as much as drumming. Anything that has to do with drumming. I need to tell my students, I need to teach my students how to practice in order for them to be successful and productive, and in order for them to have fun. Because practice is very important. You go from lesson to lesson without practice in between, you're kind of in the same place. In fact, you may have to do a review from the lesson before because you may have forgotten what it was you went over in your lesson or how to do certain things. That's why I encourage my students the day of your lesson, after your lesson, put in some practice time. Go over the stuff that you learned in your lesson earlier that day so that it will stick in your mind and you can reinforce what you learned that day and then carry it on through the week with some practice time until your next lesson. This way you progress during the week, you go to your next lesson, and you have made progress, and now you could either work on those same ideas and concepts a little bit faster, a little bit better, or maybe you're ready to move on to something else. And always keep moving forward. So what I like to do with my students is put together a practice journal for them. It has 7 days of the week in check boxes on one side of the page. The other side of the page are lines that are open for actual exercises and things that I want them to work on during the week. And next to the description lines, I'll have boxes for an amount of time. 5 minutes, work on your single stroke rolls and your double stroke rolls. 5 minutes, work on counting. 5 minutes, play along to a song that we've been working on. 5 minutes, do something else, right? So that puts together a nice 20-minute practice session each day. And every day they do each one of those things, they can check off the boxes individually. Let's say they did not play to a song that day. Don't check that box. We can keep track of exactly what our students are working on the days between our lessons, which I think is very, very important. It provides a baseline for the student. It reinforces me as the teacher to know what we've been going on, what we've been working on. I have a lot of students per week. So without this tool, keeping track of what we've been working on for 40 plus students is a challenge, right? So these practice journals are able to help me as much as they help my students to keep track of what we're going on. And then we could say, well, you know what? I would like you to add Tuesday and Thursday to your practice days. And I think that'll really help. Or, hey, great, you practice Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. That's a great week of practice. It all depends on the goals, and these practice journals I found have been very, very helpful. So us as individuals, right? Let's say you don't have a teacher. You want to just get better, and you want to work on certain aspects of your drumming. The first thing I would suggest is to identify those parts of your drumming that you do want to work on. Maybe it's your timing. Maybe it's your speed. Maybe it's your creativity, right? I want to be able to create better fills, cooler sounding fills, more interesting fills. Maybe it's reading. Whatever part or parts of your game that you want to improve, make a short list and then start to develop your own practice time. I like to start off with warm-ups, of course, just single strokes, double strokes, paradiddles, a basic starting point for our hands for exercises. Um, I think that rudiments are important. All 40 rudiments are very important. But unless you're really going into uh, rudiment centric drumming, let's say a drum line, marching band, something like that, we can save those rudiments, those 40 rudiments, for a little bit further down the road. If you're a beginner, you want to get rolling, you want to get going. A lot of what we do on the drum set is single strokes, some double strokes. Paradiddles are great for fill creation. Double strokes are great for fill creation. And also navigating around the drum set. Sometimes you want to end up on a low tom, but you have to get your left hand back. So maybe you double stroke the right hand on the floor tom, as opposed to doing a right left on the floor tom. You could keep here, right, and then your left hand is already coming back to the hi-hat, snare, and whatever else you want to be doing. So times like that, double strokes are very helpful. And then doing different things between the cymbals and whatever have you. But mostly we're doing single strokes. And if we start to create fills with single strokes through the use of dynamics, accents, and all the drums you have available to you, you could really create some awesome sounding fills just using single strokes. So for you beginners out there, make sure your single strokes are really strong. It's the foundation of everything we do in drumming. Snare drum hits, rock beats, fills, things like that, single strokes. So make sure you start off with a good warm-up of single strokes, double strokes, paradiddles in the beginning of your practice time. Single strokes, double strokes, paradiddles, just to get the blood flowing, just to get the muscles warmed up, just to get us used to holding those sticks again. If you are practicing consistently, even if it's a 10-minute a day practice or a 15-minute a day practice, I would much rather see my students and myself play for 10 or 15 minutes each day. As time permits, everybody's busy, I get it. I would rather see you play 10 to 15 minutes each day consistently than for 2 hours on a Saturday. Sure, 2 hours is more time than 15 minutes a day added up throughout the week, but the consistency is the key. Picking up your drumsticks every single day and seeing a little improvement every day is going to yield more results than not picking up your sticks all week and then Saturday picking up your sticks for 2 hours. That's just what I believe. I don't know. Maybe there are some studies that prove it. I don't know. I know that that's how it works best for me. The consistency is the key. Picking up those sticks every day, keeping it fresh in your mind what you're working on, and having a goal. Like I said, I want to work on my reading. You could even split it up if you wanted to make it Tuesdays and Thursdays, I do reading and creative. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I work on my hands, rudiments, and coordination. Four-way independence. I play songs on Saturday. Whatever it is, however it works for you, that gets you to practice, right? So experiment with different approaches. Experiment with changing it up throughout the week. You could say that doing the same practice routine every single day throughout the week could get tedious, could maybe get boring, maybe you'd lose interest. So do a little bit here, a little bit there. As long as you're working on something in your drumming, as long as you have your sticks in your hand, that's, I think, the best case scenario. So I would say set yourself goals and then figure out exercises either by yourself with your teacher, YouTube resources like MarkZDrums on YouTube, resources that you can find exercises and things to improve the areas you want to improve in your drumming. Get that practice time in, and put together a set of goals and then put together the steps of how you're going to achieve those goals. No matter what you do, you cannot help but to improve with consistent, steady practice. You won't be able to help it. I have some students that I have to keep convincing that practice is a good thing. I have some students that I keep needing to reinforce that practice is helpful. And the best times that I have in teaching is when my student has actually listened to my advice, practiced that week, and they actually come back excited to let me know that they felt like they've improved from the experience of practicing over the week. That's really the surest way to get your students to practice, is to somehow show them the value in it. I like to do sometimes take 5 minutes out of a lesson and give them something to practice, and then point out the fact that when we started it was this way. After 5 minutes, it's much better. You're warmed up, your muscles are warm, your blood is flowing, you've worked on it for 5 minutes, which I've definitely been able to see improvements in anything I do in just 5 minutes. And look how much better you're doing it right now than you did it when you started 5 minutes ago. And a lot of times that's very helpful to illustrate to the students that if you do this every day, look, you've gotten a little bit better at it right here, right now. You go home, you do it again for 5 minutes. Tomorrow you do it again for 5 minutes. If you feel like it's working and you're enjoying it, up it to 7 minutes, up it to 10 minutes, whatever it is. Because really that's where the progress happens. In the times between your lessons, I can't stress to my students enough that it's not about the lesson itself. The lesson is a guide. The lesson gives you ideas and exercise and concepts to work on your own at home between lessons. That's what it's all about. So if you have any questions about practice, if you have any questions about a practice journal, I will leave a link to a PDF in the description of this Drumcast, where you can download my layout of a practice journal. And then hopefully it'll help you or your students or anybody to take control of that practice time. Actually lay it out in a way that works for you. Make it work for you. Put it together in such a way that it's fun for you to do, and that this way you will make sure that you're practicing on a consistent basis. Make it fun for yourself. Also, within the technical stuff and the work that we do, build in some creative time. Whether, like I said, it's playing along to a song, or maybe it's creating fills on your own, working through ideas. How can I apply paradiddles to the drum set? How can I apply double strokes to the drum set? How can I do this, that, and the other thing that I heard this guy do? Or how do I just come up with my own ideas? So try to work in some creative time along with the technical part of your practice. And like I said, make it fun. Pick songs that you really like, that you really want to learn. Pick ideas and things that you really like the sound of. Make sure your drums are tuned properly. Make sure they're comfortable for you to play on. Make sure your practice space, if you have a drum set at home, is easy to get to. All of these little things can improve your practice time and your ability to practice consistently. If you have a drum set in a basement or in the back of the house or something like that, and it's boxes all around and it's hard to navigate to get in there, clear that space. Make it easy to get to your drum set. Make sure it's out enough from the wall so you're not squeezing in and out every time. Oh, I gotta squeeze in. Push everything out. Give yourself room. Allow yourself easy access to any of your practice areas, your practice space. Make sure your practice materials, any books you're working out of, any materials you have, are in the same spot every day. Make sure your practice pad, your sticks, your materials are all in a spot. Maybe a special drawer or a place in your closet, so that when it's time to practice, boom, here it is. All right? I don't know how many times I'll show up at a student's house and they're running all over the house looking for their book. Oh, now where are my sticks? Oh, where's my pen? And this is all time for their lesson that's ticking away, not being prepared. So make sure all your materials are right there to grab. Now I'm going to practice. Make sure that your practice area, like mine, I ended up moving my drums out so I can get in and out easily in my studio here. Make sure that you have an easy path to get to your practice time. Okay, so that's it for me today. I hope you got something out of this Drumcast on practice. Practice is very important, and I encourage everybody to think about what I've said, and hopefully it helps you out. Check out all my socials, MarkZDrums, across all platforms, including my Patreon. YouTube here, I have a lot of great videos on here for you to check out. I just uploaded a new drum cover, and I would love to know what you think about it. So leave me some comments. If you like this video, hit the like button. You know the drill, right? MarkZDrums across all platforms. Please like, subscribe, and follow everything that I do. And thanks again, and I'll catch you next time. Monday is the next MarkZ Drumcast. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Take care.